everybody, Sean from Movie Assault here, and it's time once again for another movie review. This time out, I'll be reviewing Creed 3 from 2023, just released in theaters last week. And if you are a regular watcher of this channel, you know I've already reviewed Creed 1 and Creed 2, so I won't really rehash what I had to say about those, other than to say that Creed 1 I thought was a great reintroduction of the Rocky series, bringing a new character to the forefront, still extending the life of an old iconic character. I thought Creed 2 was a little bit disappointing because it was kind of a regression. It kind of went back into nostalgia mode and seemed to me more about Rocky than it was about Creed. But this time, Creed 3, the character of Creed finally emerges from Rocky's shadow, and we get a movie about Adonis Creed, and it's all about Adonis Creed. Rocky's not even in it. The story this time around is we find Adonis Creed at the end of his boxing career. He has retired. He's working at the Delphi Boxing Academy, and he's basically working on it as a promoter. He's training fighters. He's currently training the current world champion. And, you know, he's trying to stay busy. And he gets a visitor from his past. A man named Damian Anderson comes to visit him. Damian has spent the last 18 years in prison and just sort of wants to get caught up on old times because he hasn't heard from Creed in a long time. And he's a little shocked by that. He feels let down. So Adonis decides that he owes this guy something, and he decides to make him a sparring partner in the gym at the Delphi Training Academy, and he makes him a sparring partner for the current heavyweight champion. One thing leads to another, and Damian expresses his desire not only to return to boxing, because he used to be a Golden Gloves champion, but he wants a title shot because he thinks he can get that from Adonis, and Adonis has the ability to give that to him because he feels that Adonis kind of lived his life while he was in prison. And that's pretty much all I'll say about the plot. Most of that was given away in the trailer, so I didn't really give away anything in terms of, spoilers or anything. So a couple of things about this movie. First off, I want to talk about the fact that Michael B. Jordan, who plays Adonis Creed, he's a fantastic actor. He's been great in all of these movies. He's great in this one. But what I want to talk about with this film is the fact that he is the director. He's a first-time director with Creed 3, and he kind of puts his stylistic thumbprints all over this movie, and it's pretty noticeable. The first movie, Ryan Coogler directed it, and it had a lot of long shots, and the boxing match, at least one of the matches, was kind of done in one take. But the boxing, the fighting was all sort of your standard stuff. The second one, same thing. They were all based in kind of realism. This time out, Michael B. Jordan does something different with the fights. They're a lot more stylized. There's a lot more quick edits and close-ups. And you can kind of tell from the way the camera is moving and what it's focusing on, you kind of get an idea of what the boxers are thinking. And it kind of puts you in their state of mind in the ring. And that's really cool. I really like that. That happens in 2 fights. And then there is a third fight, the final fight, because you know there's always a final fight in one of these movies. In that one, it goes a little more extreme. And I won't spoil it by saying anything, but things get heavily stylized in that final fight. And I know that's going to throw a lot of people for a loop. It's probably going to agitate people who want these movies sort of to be rooted in realism, but I think it was a nice change of pace. It really set the movie apart from the other entries in the series, not because it got super fantastic or anything, and there's nothing really crazy about it. It's just sort of a stylistic thing. And again, it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in the mind of the boxers. And I liked it. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I think Michael B. Jordan did a lot of stuff in this movie with the fight scenes in particular that are really going to shake some people up, really rub people the wrong way. But I liked it, and I think it's a better movie than the second one as a result of it. Um, Also great about this movie is Jonathan Majors, who plays Damian Anderson. He's been in a lot of movies that have come out recently: Devotion, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. This one, he was in, oh, I can't remember. It escapes me. But right now, he's been in the most theatrical releases of anybody that I can remember, just over the period of like 6 months or so. And it's a testament to this guy's talent. He's an amazing actor. His facial expressions are awesome. He can say a lot with his body posture and just his eyes. And um, it's really interesting because when he gets out of prison, he's sort of this humble character, very polite, almost puppy doggy. But he can transform when he becomes the villain of this movie, which you could see coming again from the trailer. He transforms into this pugilistic animal almost. He's just got unbridled rage, and he doesn't have to say anything. You just look at him and go, holy shit, this guy is going to tear somebody's arms off. And that's the type of acting that is, you either have it or you don't, and he has it. He's going to be a phenomenal success story, I think, in whatever he does in the future, because he's an amazing actor. And again, it's all body language and the way he carries himself, and it's a natural thing. I don't know that you can teach that kind of stuff, but he's just great in this, and he commands every scene he's in, even when he's on screen with Michael B. Jordan or anybody else in the cast. He is just amazing. As is the case with all of the films in this series, there is going to need to be an acceptance of some formulaic script writing, and that just comes with the territory on a Rocky movie or a Creed movie, and this is no different. So if you can get past that, um, and you probably will, because people who know what they're getting with these they already know what they're going to get, so that's usually not going to be an issue. But the one thing I like about this movie is that it's not good versus evil like the Rocky movies always were. Rocky was always the good guy, and Drago was the bad guy. Clubber Lang was the bad guy. Apollo Creed, even though he was never the series hadn't gone into that sort of cartoony good versus evil thing yet, Apollo Creed was a natural villain because he was a natural antagonist. In this movie, you finally have shades of gray with the characters. This is a movie that has Adonis Creed kind of dealing with things that happened in the past. He's not a completely 100% good person all the time, or hasn't always been. And Damian Anderson isn't always 100% a bad guy all the time. His past is not, I don't want to say it's not bad, but it's not entirely his fault either. So there's some understanding that you can give to both of these characters, and you can kind of feel where the villain is coming from, and you can feel where the hero is coming from, where he's struggling. So you have this emotional conflict with both characters that it's nice to have in a Rocky movie, instead of everything being so cut and dry. One thing that I do have to mention is that, yes, there is no Rocky in this movie. Sylvester Stallone is credited as a producer, but he does not appear in the movie. Apparently, there was some sort of bad blood behind the scenes with a producer. I was not aware of any of that when I saw the movie. I specifically avoided reading anything about why Rocky wasn't in this movie until after I saw the movie. His presence is not it's not a big hindrance, because this is finally a story completely about Adonis Creed, and Adonis Creed dealing with the consequences of his past. I think injecting Rocky into that would either oversimplify things, because again, the Rocky character is always 100% on the right path, things aren't quite as cut and dry as in real life. And I think this type of movie and the tone of this movie, I think that Rocky would either oversimplify it or needlessly complicate it by trying to rationalize how Rocky would deal with the situation. And in all honesty, you don't have to put Rocky in every one of these movies. It's not the Rocky series anymore. It's the Creed series. So while Rocky, the character, has a place in this series and his history with obviously Apollo or Adonis's father and training Adonis in the early years of his career, all of that, all important. But that's like saying that if you were going to tell a story about yourself, you'd have to put your mom in every story about yourself. And even if she wasn't there, putting her in the story would be stupid. And I kind of think that's the deal with Rocky here. Just because he's a character in this universe doesn't mean he has to be in every story. And he's missing here, and it doesn't feel unnatural to me. So yeah, I really like this movie, but there are a few things that don't work. Specifically, the arc that Damian Anderson takes from going from a complete nobody to a contender is kind of unbelievable, even for a Rocky movie. Even in the movie, they kind of echo the fact that they want to recreate this sort of champ versus chump type fight that the original Rocky had with Apollo Creed bringing on a virtual unknown to challenge him for the title because there wasn't anybody left to fight, or whatever the reasoning was. I can't remember the original Rocky why he chose him to fight. But at least that felt natural. That felt like a business decision. That felt like somebody was looking for a way to shake things up. In Creed 3, it's just a series of events that, as they transpire, you just kind of go, wait, that's not really how this is going to work? Really? No. It's just a little bit unbelievable. And then when things are revealed as to why some things happened, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a reveal as to who was responsible for something. I think it's so subtle that some people might even miss it. They won't understand what happened. I think I kind of got that vibe when I saw it in the theater, that some people were like, wait, what? I understand what happened. I understand who did it. It's just, it's kind of skating on thin ice in terms of plot. Even for something as formulaic as a Creed movie. And there's a subplot involving Bianca and Adonis's daughter that is introduced and dealt with, and then it just sort of mysteriously disappears without any real resolution. So that was weird. Neither one of these things spoiled my appreciation of the movie for what it is. It is another entry in what is really a formulaic series. I think it's going to be very hard, and it has been very hard for the writers to keep coming up with these scenarios where we have to get really angry at somebody and hope that the hero beats the crap out of them at the end of the movie. Because boxing isn't really like that. It's, who's going to be the biggest draw, who's got the most talent, that type of stuff. There doesn't need to be an emotional pull for every fight in the boxing world. And these movies always end with a boxing match. So if this is the last of the Creed series, I think it is a fitting end to the series, even a fitting end to the Rocky / Creed series. I think Rocky bowed out kind of gracefully in number 2. So I don't know. Long story short, I like this movie much better than the second one, but not as much as the first one. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. And yeah, if you know what you're getting into, you're not going to get a great movie, but at least this one you get a really well-acted, if formulaic, boxing movie that isn't quite as hard to swallow as, say, Rocky IV, but is still pretty sketchy in terms of believability, but is still entertaining. This is the longest review I've done in a long time. I'm going to probably edit this down a little bit. So if you've made it this far, I really appreciate you sticking with me as I sort of worked out my thoughts on Creed 3. And I really appreciate you staying here. And if you liked what you saw, like what you heard, please consider subscribing and click that like button, that thumbs up. It'll really help me. It'll help the channel. It helps everything. So thanks again for watching, everybody. Take it easy.